I'm Andrea Butcher, and this is Being at Work. Being a leader is hard. So on this show, I set out to talk with experienced leaders to learn from their pivotal moments, how they led through the challenges we can all relate to but are often unheard. Today's pivotal moment is shared by Donna Wilkinson, Senior Vice President of HR at Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Donna is a risk taker. She's not afraid to push herself out of her comfort zone and models that for others. It's also important for her to create an environment for others to take risks and experiment, as she knows that's where innovation comes from. I've known Donna for many years and have gotten to see her in action both personally and professionally. While she's a driver focused on innovation, she's also incredibly steady and an empathic listener. It's clear that she's driven by her values and what's really important to her. As you'll hear in her story, her family is her driving force. Listen in as she shares what risk-taking means to her and how she's bringing that to life at home and in her role with the Pacers.
It's been interesting. It's funny because when I thought about my career, when you think about my career, the last 20 years I've been in Indianapolis. But before that, I moved around a lot, and it was very intentional. After business school, I had met my husband in business school, but we did not want to get married right away because I wanted to start my career. I didn't want to be focused on having to be in a certain city. So I started out working for Sara Lee Corporation and chose them because they were very entrepreneurial. They would purchase businesses and divisions and allow them to run as kind of standalone companies, even though they were part of a bigger umbrella. So I worked in manufacturing and union and non-union environments at Sara Lee. I made hot dogs, corn dogs, and I still eat them. So it's all good and fun. And ended up in Dallas at State Fair Foods, where I was vice president of human resources, a great role, but got a call from a business school colleague and he was starting a company, a tech startup in Indianapolis, and asked if I would consider moving there to lead HR for the startup. And really allowed us to have a family discussion about that. We just had my oldest daughter, Natalie, and my husband could move. He was mobile. He was in consulting. And I really felt that was a good next step for me. And it would be kind of if not now, when are we going to be able to do this? Let's take a chance. Let's even move closer to home, where Jeff grew up in Chicago, my husband. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I think the first best decision was marrying my husband, but getting to Indy really felt like we came home. And so we have been here for 20 years. And after a couple years, the tech bubble burst, and that was after 9/11. And a lot of the startups kind of lost their funding, and that ours was one of them. And so that's when I was searching for another role. And at that time, I had just had Claire. So my second child was a baby, and I'm like, okay, I definitely want to continue to work. So what's out there? And that's when I got connected with the Pacers through someone I had worked with at my startup. So, and therein started the relationship I have and the career I have with the Pacers, which has been over 17 years. And when I started with them, they did not have an formal HR function. So I started HR here and really been so happy that I made that decision.
What was that like, starting HR at the Pacers?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a misnomer because they did have a lot of some of the processes in place. But when they moved into Conseco Fieldhouse back in 1999, they hired a lot of people. So I think the hiring and the opening of that building made them realize, wow, we actually need like somebody to formalize this and lead the various functions that were then considered HR. And I would say it came at the right time in my career, having worked for the startup. Having worked for Sara Lee, it gave me experience and confidence. I got my certifications in HR. Working for the startup helped me really kind of know that I could do it. I ended up, putting all kind of systems and processes in place there. So it was a real natural, it was sort of like a startup, but it wasn't a startup. It was a very established company with really experienced leaders, but, and I had a lot of support. So it was really the perfect opportunity. And plus I love sports. So it kind of just ended up being really all the things coming together.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 17 years.
I know. Tell me about it.
Well, and to look at where you are today and the function that you've built.
It definitely was. It's been a team effort, and it's been an evolution. And as you think about all the things and the changes that have happened in our company and with our culture, it's been a very incremental change, but purposeful, and definitely one that we really make a concerted effort to listen to our employees and to try to, make change happen, even if there are constraints with funds and, resources and different things. There's definitely, I think, there's been ways we've been, over the years tried to really help evolve who we are. And every hire, we're very, we have that focus on our values and what we believe in, and we want to make sure that those hires are consistent with that so that they could continue to kind of build what we're trying to do.
So I know we're coming into our conversation today with you having a kind of a specific situation that you wanted to talk through, a risk that you took, kind of a fork in the road. So tell me a bit more about that.
I think back about being an athlete, and I guess I think about risks in a different way and challenges. I've learned that you can't grow unless you're out of your comfort zone, and I've learned that it's not always, risk sounds negative. I guess I'm a more optimistic type of person, so I think, and I've been drawn to challenging situations. The two industries that I selected and that I ended up spending most of my career on are the meat business and sports. And I think the funny thing is there's not a lot of women in either of those, or there haven't been. So I think when you look at what is the biggest challenge or fork, it's like, well, what am I getting myself into? 17 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of women in leadership roles in sports and in any sports, because it was just a tough business. And it's, we work when people play, and there's a lot of rigors and demands. It's not very family friendly. But as time has changed, and I've wanted to change that, I was still one of the very few, I think, women in it who have children who are a dual career family that works in an executive position. I think I have the privilege of working around amazing, trailblazing women here at the Pacers. Kelly Crosscroft, who is, our assistant GM, who built our Fever franchise and is, the first female basketball GM in the league. We have, of course, Tamika. Mel Raines, who leads our facilities, one of only 4 women who leads the, facilities here in NBA arenas, and is president of our All-Star initiative. And that has helped our momentum. So I think, the fork was really like taking a leap and saying, am I prepared for this this environment of sports and what it's cracked up to be? But because we have such great owners, supportive leaders, and the challenge, yes, it was a challenge, but we've been able to really do some cool things here and allow for a lot of growth and hope. And our goal is to be, the best place for women to work in sports in any place. We want people to look at our franchise as the best. And I'm very competitive, so that kind of plays into that.
So, and would you say you're naturally more risk tolerant as well? I appreciate your sentiment of you can't grow if you're not out of your comfort zone. Is that something, having been in sports, is that natural to you?
I think it is. I don't know if it's a sports thing or if it's just my personality, and I think it was when I grew up, my father was very much like that. And, what is the worst that can happen? You learn, you grow, I've been laid off twice in my career. The first time but both times it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me, honestly. And it helps me have have that empathy and conversations with our employees as they face challenging and changing situations. But the first time I went back to business school, and the second time after the startup failed, I ended up working for the Pacers. So change is not bad. It's just, it helps, it helps you reassess. It really helps you focus on what's important in your life, and help you make choices that are more directed, I find. And so I'm not afraid of it. No.
Is it something that you work to instill in your team and your leaders as well?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely been a focus for us. I think one of my goals I guess one of the leaders of culture here is to help people find their voice, help people understand who they are, help them use that voice to, make choices in their own life and be able to contribute in the best ways possible for our company and for them personally to grow. So I think I would have failed if I hear somebody say, I was disappointed in this, but I didn't say anything. I think helping people feel safe, which a lot of times in a lot of companies, people don't, because if they feel like if they speak up, then they'll lose their job, or they won't get, they won't get disciplined or something. I mean, that is absolutely the opposite of the culture we're trying to create here. Very much one that, we're respectful, but we speak our mind and we challenge each other, and we share. That's how we get better, and that's how we're gonna be great.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're creating an environment that helps people to feel safe to take risks and step out of their comfort zones.
That's the idea. Yep. It's a continual challenge. I think a lot of people, if you don't feel secure in that, or may have insecurities of their own, and trying to help them free themselves of that is, and learn about themselves. Sometimes you don't know what you feel because you haven't thought about it, or you've been so busy, you've just been working, you haven't really taken time to think and make changes.
Right. You've been heads down rather than looking around at what can I do. Well, and I've seen too, there's a lot of times people have been burned, right, where they've spoken up, or they stepped out and tried something and been very quickly chastised or told that won't work. Or so if they're coming from that kind of an environment, that can be an impediment also. Is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen that in our careers, and we're going through, just like every company. I mean, I think you want to be more innovative, and how do you do that? We did something really cool last year where we started PSE University, and it actually came out of an idea from one of our employees who thought it would be great to be able to understand a little bit more about all the different aspects of our business outside of the department that they were working in. And we said, that's a great idea. Let's think about how we could do that. And we ended up, our senior leadership, it puts on a year-long class for 20 employees, and we had our first inaugural class of 17 employees, and shares how our business works, what it's about, and it gives people knowledge, which also helps them understand what they do in the context of a bigger picture. Like they're not just in the accounting department or in the facilities department. They're working as part of a bigger group, and it's really been a terrific, we're just about to announce our second class. So it's been awesome. It's gotten great reviews, and we had 49 people apply this year, versus 34 last year. Wow. So it's been really an amazing thing.
Yeah. What do you attribute the success to?
I think we all worked really hard at, I think that the senior leaders engaged, they bought in. I think they really, really made it the experience they took it seriously, and they shared things that really surprised a lot of people. We had experiential classes where, you got to go in the broadcast truck, you got to ask questions, listen, be on a field trip, it's sort of like school again, but it was terrific. And it was great for our leaders to be able to also engage with really bright up and coming, folks within our company that they might not have had experience with, getting to know. And for the class, a lot of them didn't know each other either, because they work in different departments away from each other. So it really allowed us to kind of have a real cohesive team building experience, within our company in kind of a different way.
So it sounds like value all around. Win-win.
It was good. We'll continue to evolve it, see what we can do to make it better.
How much of an individual's risk-taking do you think is about their style, their personality? How much of that can be developed versus, that's just who I am, and I'm someone who needs predictability? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it can be developed. I think there's a lot of value in routine and consistency. And I'm not saying, I think that you could be consistent, but you could still be a risk taker. I think a lot of how you build your culture and the safety of that culture can bring out ideas and innovation and allow people to share things, even those folks who are most shy or most reluctant to. I think creating that kind of safety and encouragement, at the very micro level with just your direct supervisor one-on-one, and also at the bigger company level, do you feel like it's safe? Can I walk into the president's office and say, hey, why don't we do this? So I want it to happen on both levels. Like, I want people to be able to, I want supervisors to cultivate that, but I know our president loves that. So it's got to happen all the way around to really continue to be successful.
Well, and to actually be a part of the culture.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be modeled, it has to be encouraged, and then the employee has to be willing to step into that.
That's right.
Well, it's certainly something you've modeled throughout your career. And if you could go back now, you made the decision to move to Indianapolis. You said it was such a good one. But what advice would you give to Donna at that time, like looking back now?
Sometimes I look back and I'm like, how did I do that with 2 kids? My husband traveled and I don't want to go back because I don't know how I got through it. But the advice I would have, I guess, I just like, as you mature, you find your voice get stronger. You find your voice get less emotional. I find that, and I wish I had a little bit more of that wisdom earlier on. But I think I did a pretty good job with everything going on. But I guess don't get discouraged and stay positive. And I wish I could have done more, but I don't know that I could have, given my first priority was always my family. So although I had a career, I needed to make sure my kids grew up and were very successful, well-adjusted, great, out of trouble type of kids, good students. And I think if I would have said, I wish I had more connections, I wish I got involved in the community earlier, that may have suffered. It's a very delicate balance, Yeah,
and I'm reflecting on your girls. I've been fortunate since our kids go to the same school system, I've gotten to see them in action and just what wonderful people they are. So you're putting your family first has been clear. You've modeled the way for them, and they're both such talented young women with such bright futures ahead of them. So well done on that. Well,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Well done on that
front. My proudest accomplishments.
No doubt. And I guess Jeff had something to do with it as well.
Yes, he did. Yeah. It's a team effort.
I was just going to say, it seems like you guys are a really good team.
Yep.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about regarding risk-taking. I think the couple of key things that I'm taking away from this, just the reminder that I'm not growing if I'm not out of my comfort zone. So being comfortable, being uncomfortable is always a good reminder, particularly for people who like to stay in control and predict their future. That's always good. And then just the reminder about how important the environment is too. So thank you for sharing the specific things that you and your fellow leaders are doing at the Pacers organization with PSE University and the other examples you've provided to make it safe for people and provide development opportunities around innovation and growth and learning. Well, if our listeners want to connect with you, Donna, what's the best way to do that?
Email, I would say. It's dwilkinson@pacers.com.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. Please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast to never miss a Being at Work story.